Back to another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. I'm your host, Teresa. The journey of a soul in a physical body is in constant change. If you think back to your life and reflect on how many changes you've been through, you might get overwhelmed, but you might go, wow, I have been through a lot of things. And how many times have you had to recreate your life through moves, jobs, situations with families, maybe your spiritual journey? But are you living the life that you've always dreamed of? Are you creating, expressing your uniqueness through who you are and what you're doing? Well, after today's episode, you might have some new thoughts on who you want to be and how to go about creating that life you've always dreamed about. My guest today is best known as a featured expert in the film and book, The Secret. His name is Bob Doyle, and he now focuses his coaching and training on neuroplasticity and your ability to rewire your brain so that you literally become the person who creates the results you want in life without having to adopt any unusual belief system. He's been teaching these principles through programs, live events, podcasts, live streams, coaching, writing, and even virtual reality since 1998. He is driven by his passion for creative self-expression, and his work is heavily focused on helping people decide who they want to be and how they want to express themselves. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you so much. That's one of my favorite introductions ever. Especially the part at the beginning where it was all you.
Well, thank you so much. Well, Bob, I believe in divine timing. I believe that everything happens when it's ready to happen. And right now, there is so much change going on the planet. I mean, I always believe there's change in the planet, but right now it's like the whole collective of the planet has to recreate, has to look at where they at, what's working, what's not working. So I'm so excited to have you on today because I want to really dig deep into some ways that you can help people through the rewiring and neuroplasticity. So let's dive into what is neuroplasticity.
So basically, it's our ability to change our brain. And just that one simple thing, that's really, I've gone from 20 years of teaching the ins and outs of law of attraction and vibration and energy and resonance and lots of complicated stuff that slowed people down to just being able to say, hey, your brain can change. And once people get that, then transformation can take place because then they can do the things necessary to change their brain.
So that's really like stepping into new realities through the brain.
Absolutely. Yes, because the key question I ask people now is, when is reality really created? And the answer, certainly from my point of view, is that your reality, your specific, unique reality, is created when you give this moment meaning. Is it good? Is it bad? Do you like it? Have you arrived? Are you never going to get there? All this stuff happens because all of these neural pathways get fired off. These dots get connected. You're referring to things that are so subconscious and unconscious, you can't even believe it. And that is all shaping this moment and what is real and true to you. But it's all your wiring. And it's different than the person down the street and across the country and across the world. And that's what we're really seeing right now in such a huge way is the impact of wiring. Because how can people look at the same basic information and get completely different interpretations of what's true and not understand in any way how the other person can see it their way? It's all wiring. It's just biology. And so if your wiring isn't serving you, if it's causing you to make meaning that is even stopping you from taking action in various ways or taking repeated action that isn't serving you, then it's great to know that you can actually change that.
So in rewiring through your biology, does that also have to come into effect like your culture, where you live at, who your parents are? I mean, the things you grew up with, does that have come into it with also? Or
that's the foundation of it all. Because when we're born, our brains are just wide open and we're saying yes to everything, right? We're not analyzing and interpreting and evaluating what our parents are telling us and what we're learning from TV and all this. We're just saying, yes, okay, this is truth. This is truth. We don't even know about critical thinking. It's just yes to everything, and all the emotions associated with it. So that is the foundation of our wiring and how we're building the lens through which we see this world. Our truth and how we perceive truth is being formed then. And if we don't do something consciously to override the wiring that doesn't serve us, then we will always live in autopilot. thinking that we are making conscious choices and have free will, but actually driven by a bunch of wiring that a lot of it is based on no truth whatsoever, just circumstance.
Boy, that's a biggie, huh?
It is.
It
But
is a
there's
real
so much
big one.
power there.
Without a doubt. And I like the fact that it's dealing with the brain. So a lot of what I deal with is, energy but I'm also definitely, the spiritual, the mental, the body, the physical, all of it comes into play. So being able to tap into and rewiring the brain and the concepts and beliefs that are within that brain is so powerful. So, Bob, talk about making it practical, because I'm all about making this stuff practical, no matter if it is spiritual or if it is, mental or if it is the physical body, how to make this practical within someone's life.
Well, here's the thing. What we're talking about doing, rewiring our brain, is in the context of personal development, personal transformation. But we rewire our brains all the time, every time we learn a new thing. Whether it's a new language or where this restaurant is or anything new, we're constantly doing it. So there's nothing more practical. It just happens as we give the brain new information. So right now, most of us or so many of us are running on unconsciously made wiring. And because we're not conscious of just how on autopilot we are, we just let it happen. We just let it happen and we make decisions and take action and we just make that truth more real. But and so it doesn't even feel like you're doing anything to do it. Now, if we're going to get intentional about our transformation, just like if we're going to get intentional about learning a new language, we have to understand that there is a learning freaking curve. And there's some discomfort associated with, I don't know this, I don't know how to do this. And hooray, that's totally natural. If you're not feeling the discomfort, you're not growing. But somehow, we're all used to making mistakes and having the pain points in learning things like walking and talking and cooking and just the essentials, because those are non-negotiable. But somehow we've made our goals, our dreams, our visions negotiable enough that we allow ourselves to stop learning to be the person we need to be at the littlest thing, after just a few attempts. And we come up with things like, the universe must not want it for me, and just complete nonsense. And it's simply because we didn't just keep the same consistent thought going. We didn't hold the vision like we did when we were determined to learn something else that was non-negotiable. But otherwise, everything is on autopilot.
Right. And, I think also that, like I mentioned in the beginning, I believe that change is constant. And we're here. It's, our lives are constantly evolving, constantly changing. And we're to a point right now in 2020, 2021, moving into 2022 and beyond, where it's a magical time. There's so much going on the planet, but there is a time to step into your greatness, step into the life you really want, who you really want to be. And I know for myself and other people around me that I've talked to is that there's been great transformations from all this constant, I call the egg breaking open, and the unfolding of what's, how do you want things to look for yourself? And I know that you like to, or you mentioned, having people really be an expression of who they want to be and what they want to experience and the life they want to step into. So that to me seems like the most opportune time right now to embrace this rewiring, embrace this neuroplasticity, and really rock your life, because that's what I want to do. So it seems like a perfect time.
Yes, and just knowing that there's so much to debate about the law of attraction. When I was focused on that, people debate that all day long. You can't debate that your brain can change and how it changes. So if a person is committed to change a new goal, even if they're not 100% clear on what it is, they get to know that it will happen. All I have to do is keep doing this. So yes, it is a time right now for us to realize this amazing creative ability we were born with. And unfortunately, for most of us, it's been running wild on autopilot, being impacted by other people's belief systems. But we can wrangle it in at any time, understanding that as we do that, we're going to come up against the old wiring. We're going to come up with all the reasons why we can't or shouldn't do this transformation. And we just have to understand that that's a part of it. That's not something to be frustrated about or anything. It's just like, of course, that those thoughts are going to come up. And it's just part of the learning process. So now you just replace them with something else. So yes, now is a great time to understand that you can still, wherever you are in your life, at least get wildly closer to the person you most want to become. And I just want to add this too, that this whole idea that we have to deserve it or earn it is it's just such a fallacy that is causing people to delay and second guess. If the most probably spiritual energy based thing I'll say today is that we are an energetic extension of the universe. It's not the universe and us. We are part of the universe, this cluster of energy that has physicality and the ability to experience the rest of the energy. So it's my firm belief that we are here so that the universe can experience itself and all the things it can imagine. And it imagines these things through us, the people, the humans, with this brain and ability that we were born with to visualize that future and live into it, wire ourselves to be that person. But that's not the culture we live in. We get wired by others. So we have to wake up to this as adults. And then we have to go through the whole process of accepting it as true and going, oh, this guy was in the secret. This is a woo-woo thing. No. This is, you can't get more simple and basic.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you said a little bit ago too, about being uncomfortable. So if these listeners, I mean, most of the listeners right now probably have had some type of variation of being little uncomfortable to massively uncomfortable in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And so being able to move into that energy and go, you know what, I don't want to be this way. I want to shift my brain, my life, the way I want it to look better. Now is the time.
Yeah. And the discomfort is something to celebrate, really. You can reframe all of it, like everything that you would normally perceive as a failure. Oh, I tried this thing and I got this result. I failed. No, you got more feedback. Hooray. It's a cause of celebration. The more action you take, the more feedback you'll get, which a lot of people, too many people, interpret as mistakes or failures. So they stop instead of understanding that this is an essential part of getting there. You don't just wake up totally rewired with all the lessons that you need to learn for that to happen. You're going to go through some life to get to that better version of yourself, the one who has the more results, because you're going to be putting out more value. You're going to be living more powerfully. You're going to have to let go of a lifetime of stories that you have kept telling over and over about why you can't be, do, or have something. And that's going to be hard because that's part of your identity. You've wired yourself to be your stories. So you have to start telling new stories. But guess what? It's free and you get to do it as much as you want. And the more you do it with the full emotion and the visualization, all these gifts that we have, the quicker you will rewire your brain so that the behavior to get those results becomes your new autopilot behavior, just like your current behavior is autopilot.
So let's talk about ways that the listeners can access this and step into this new rewiring and start working this for themselves.
Well, the first thing I do with everybody is I put them through this quiz that I created that helps them see how their autopilot wiring is in operation right now. So it's a transformation personality type quiz. It's like 60 seconds. It's free, but it tells us both where our starting point is. Because if you understand how some of your autopilot behavior and what the tendencies are with that behavior, then you can become aware of them. And the very first step to changing your wiring is awareness, being able to step into total awareness that I am in autopilot right now. This is not the truth. This is just my wiring, right? So teaching that skill is the first thing we do. And to make that easier, we let people, and we shine a light on the traits of their personality when it comes to personal transformation that tend to stop their wiring. So we have them take the quiz, then they know what type they are, what the traits are, and we tell them, here are some things you can do to use this type to your advantage, because there's nothing wrong with any of these types. It's just that there are traits that tend to slow down the rewiring process.
And so rewiring their brain, then they can really be a true expression of who they want to be and
That's
stepping
right.
into the greatness. Is that correct?
And it's the only way. See, this is the thing about transformation. If it's going to be permanent and lasting, it's going to be because your brain was successfully rewired. Anybody can coast on neurotransmitters for a week after an exciting seminar and all that other stuff. But if they're not being this new behavior consistently and own this as this is who they are right now, enough that the neural pathways can actually form, then you're up against a lifetime of other neural pathways. They're going to be coming back for attention. And any little trigger, if you're not conscious, can send you right back. And then you reinforce all those again, and the new stuff fades away. So it's really about being conscious.
Yeah. And so what I hear you saying, what I do is once I'm able to discern, like since I work a lot with energy and I'm very sensitive, once I discern certain energies that come in and affect me throughout my day, I can then go, okay, what's that about?
Yes.
And so I'm assuming, and that's kind of what I hear you saying about the brain. Like once you just, discern different, rewiring that you've been doing for all these, decades or however long your life's been. And I think also probably past lives too, that might have come in and been part of this that affect your brain also. Then you can start changing it and keep, being able to discern what you're picking up on. Is that correct, Bob?
Yes, it's becoming aware of that so that you can make another choice. So part of the work I do with people is helping them. Okay, so what is the new choice? Because it's one thing to become aware, oh my God, I'm in autopilot right now. But it's another thing to now take a different action because what is it going to be? So, that's why there's so much of my work is about visualizing who that is and what are the behaviors that are different. It's analyzing the gap between who you're being now and the meaning you're making of things and who you need to be to get these new results.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And so they take this test, and then what do they do after that? What's the next
So
step?
they're after that, then they're going to be
Hmm.
able, well, then they'll know more about their types. They'll be able to get into that observation mode. That's kind of like
Hmm.
something that anybody can do, even who's listening right now, is just to start to become aware of when they get into a reaction mode. If they just feel disempowered or, they just plummet emotionally because somebody gave them a look, to just be able to stop and go, okay, I'm in autopilot right now. This is
Hmm.
just completely out of my control. That and just getting into the practice of doing that helps you become more naturally conscious and realize that a lot of times you are on autopilot and you can make other choices. But after the
Hmm.
quiz, then, we tell them what to be on the lookout for and different ideas. But my after 20 years of coaching this stuff, I realized that a person left on their own up against personal transformation is that the failure rate is so high, it's embarrassing. And it's not the fault of the program, and it's not really the fault of the person so much, except that when they get to that the limits of their wiring, they don't know how to grow past that. This is all they know and all the meaning they make. And so they will find a reason that is logical with tons of evidence why they can't move forward. So you need a support system. You need a daily boost in the right direction. You need somebody who's going to reframe you, and you need a community to help you remember that you are not in this alone and that we can all help. Now, again, I'm saying all of this based on a couple of decades of facilitating transformation. These are the elements that I know. It's the repetition, all of these things that are going to facilitate, and keeping it simple,
Oh,
because
I love that.
all the confusion about law of attraction is out of there now. And I don't even have
Hmm.
to talk about the hemispheres of the brain and how, because that doesn't matter. All
Hmm.
you need to know is that your brain can change. There's plenty of people out there teaching the brain science deep, and it's awesome and it's very interesting. But if you get focused on that, like you got focused on how the law of attraction works, and you don't do the work, we
Right.
just got a bunch of people who are excited about all of this stuff, but they still haven't changed their own brain. They still haven't
Hmm.
fully become or defined who they want to become,
Hmm.
and or they're dependent on having to learn all the time. Anyway, all of these fall into these transformation personality types. There's various reasons why people stop.
Yeah. And what I like what you said too is about having a community and having that connection with others, because I think that's obviously what we've been missing in the last year and a half, 2 years with the COVID pandemic and the isolation and being, really by ourselves a lot, except for, the Zoom, obviously Zoom's helped tremendously and
Yeah.
also connect us with the worldwide, web, but having that interaction with others and like-minded souls and being able to get that support that you need, because I truly believe you also that yeah, you need to have that support to continue to work with whatever process it is, whether it be neuroplasticity or doing some energy work or whatever it looks like, but that support
Yeah.
to keep it going, to keep it moving.
But also to to be an observer of other people's behavior and
Yes.
autopilot, to become
Yes.
you become more of an expert
Mhm.
in human behavior in general when you see people's other than yourselves, or you see, oh my God, that's my behavior in them. And
Right.
it's a level of support you can't do if you're just by yourself. So that's
Yes.
that. After the quiz, they learn about the work I do and how I can help people.
Mhm. Well, I'm excited, Bob. And I was super excited waking up today. I'm like, wow, today I'm going to learn something new and I'm going to help people with their brain and neuroplasticity. So super excited you came on today.
Well, good. I love talking about it. It's very exciting to me too, because we can just get right to it and it's easy to understand. It's so easy. Now, implementing it, then you're up against your wiring and you got a million reasons why. Well, I get it, but I don't know. I can't do it because of this and this and this. But if you're truly committed and are willing to help, let me or somebody shake that a little bit and see the benefit of letting go of the old stories that don't seem like stories. They just seem like the truth. But if they're disempowering and they have anything to do with you not being able to do, be, or have something, I assure you they are not true.
And again, back to where we're at in the time frame. And I feel that there's a lot of people who are either get ready to step into this or are almost ready to step into this, because we're also in a new, coming into 2022, there's going to be a whole new, shift there too. So it's like it's a perfect timing for this type of work. Well, I mean, you said you've been doing it for decades, but I mean, it's also when are people ready for it?
But the brain stuff is recent. And in fact, it really looks like a lot of us in the law of attraction conversation who are committed to the transformation and not the process are going this way. There's more and more people talking about the brain because it's so simple and it's the truth and it's easy. I mean, the work itself takes that commitment and the discomfort, but it's just so easy to understand. And I think we can, if people can wake up to this, their own natural, like couldn't be a more natural ability than to create the experience of reality you want through the action you take and who you're being. And you can start that at any time.
Well, I suggest all my listeners start it today. So let's talk about in the show notes. I'm definitely going to have your website. I'm going to have how to get to the quiz, which is a free quiz.
Yep.
So people can start with that and then find out how to work with you. Right, Bob?
Yes. The quiz just by itself. If you just really are with it and are willing to get the results and say, yeah, that's me. I mean, I've never had anybody tell me the quiz was wrong, first of all, but also it's just so when you see yourself like that and you go, yes, that is my behavior. And that now you have consciousness. You are beginning to wake up.
I love that. And I think there's a lot of people on the planet who are ready to wake up right now.
I hope so.
Thank you, Bob, so much for coming on today and sharing. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I'll have all the information in my show notes so that my listeners can find you and find this amazing way to wake up their brains, shift stuff.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity.
And thank you again, listeners, for listening to another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. And remember that life is too short to not be enthusiastic about your unique journey.